Welcome to the SABC News COVID-19 Global Wrap, where myself, Babalola Phaka, and my colleague Busisiwe Khatebe bring you highlights of stories which dominated news headlines with regards to the coronavirus pandemic. But before we delve into it, let us have a look at some global stats. The world currently sits at over 102 million confirmed cases, with over 73.8 million recoveries and over 2.2 million deaths. Ranking 15th in the world, South Africa currently sits at over 1.4 million cases.
Staying in South Africa, government will roll out a free mass COVID-19 vaccination campaign for which money has been allocated in the medium term. Finance Minister Tito Mboweni, tabling the 2021 budget on Thursday, said a successful rollout of COVID-19 vaccines is critical for saving lives and bringing economic activities to normality and improve growth. Meanwhile, Health Minister Dr. Zweli Mkhize says South Africa aims to vaccinate around 1.1 million people against COVID-19 by the end of March as the country ramps up its immunization program. Lastly, Pfizer Inc. and BioNTech SE say they are testing a third dose of their COVID-19 vaccine to better understand the immune response against new variants of the virus. They are also in talks with regulatory authorities about testing a vaccine modified to protect specifically against the highly transmissible new variant found in South Africa and elsewhere, known as B1351, as a second arm of the same study. On to the other parts of the continent. Africa has now recorded over 3.8 million confirmed COVID-19 cases with over 3.4 million recoveries. The death toll stands at 102,980. Director of the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, John Gengasong, says the African Union is backing calls for drug makers to waive some intellectual property rights of COVID-19 medicines and vaccines to speed up their rollout to poor countries. Ghana has become the first country to receive COVID-19 vaccines through the World Health Organization's COVAX facility. The arrival of the 600,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine will mark the launch of the West African country's coronavirus inoculation program. In Kenya, the first batch of the country's COVID-19 vaccines will arrive in the first week of March. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe will buy an additional 1.2 million COVID-19 vaccine doses from China at a preferential price. And in the Middle East, health authorities in the government-controlled part of Yemen say hospitals should prepare for a possible second wave and take steps to prevent the disease from spreading. And lastly, Nigeria will draw up a supplementary budget in March to cover the cost of COVID-19 vaccinations, for which no provision was made in the 2021 finance bill adopted in December, Finance Minister Zainab Ahmed said on Thursday. The government has said it plans to inoculate 40% of Nigeria's 200 million people this year and another 30% in 2022.
And in international news, in the United States of America, Friday will see the U.S. House of Representatives voting on legislation to provide $1.9 trillion in new coronavirus relief. The House Budget Committee approved the measures on Monday as providing more relief to ease the economic effects of the pandemic remains President Joe Biden's top priority. And in a move to remember those who have succumbed to the coronavirus in the country, Biden has ordered the U.S. flag to be flown at half-staff on public buildings and ground until Friday. This after the U.S. reached the grim milestone of 500,000 COVID-19-related fatalities on Monday, with bells tolling 500 times at the National Cathedral in Washington in honor of the 500,000 people who lost their lives to the virus. In a somber speech given at a candlelit White House to mark the occasion, Biden empathized with the losses families across the nation had experienced and promised healing with time. In South America, Colombia kicked off its COVID-19 vaccine rollout on Wednesday after the arrival of the country's first vaccine from Pfizer Inc. The health ministry says Colombia has the capacity to conduct up to 100,000 vaccinations daily. Meanwhile, Mexico's vaccination drive for its senior citizens got off to a slow start on Monday as dozens of citizens over 60 years queued for hours because of delays in the administering of shots. The Mexican government says it aims to vaccinate all citizens over 60 by the end of April. In Asia, India's Maharashtra state announced a week-long lockdown in one of its districts on Monday and advised 18 million residents of local capital Mumbai to obey COVID-19 rules or face the consequences. This after 4 other states posted an upsurge in cases after a dip in numbers in the recent past. Meanwhile, Japan will only receive limited doses of COVID-19 vaccines for the first months of the rollout. And as Pfizer Inc. ramps up production in Europe, Administrative Reform Minister Taro Kono cautioned that the increased supplies are not likely to reach Japan by May. In Europe, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Monday said lockdown restrictions would be cautiously lifted in England from the 8th of March, saying that restrictions cannot be maintained indefinitely. Johnson added that there was no credible route to eliminating COVID-19 from the world. With more than 120,000 fatalities, Britain has suffered the world's 5th highest official death toll from the pandemic and its biggest economic crash in more than 300 years. And in Portugal, a lockdown put in place on January 15, which saw the shutting down of non-essential services and schools, is expected to last until at least the end of March. And finally, an Israeli-based research study of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine to be independently reviewed shows the shot is highly effective at preventing COVID-19. The research showed 2 doses of the Pfizer shot cut symptomatic COVID-19 cases by 94% across all age groups and severe illnesses by nearly as much.
For the latest updates on the coronavirus, visit sabcnews.com.